Are you a child of the shadow? It's probably the first question you thought when you clicked on this video. What does a child of the shadow mean? Maybe you're familiar with Carl Jung's work on the shadow and what it has to do with projection. It's probably the first word that comes into your mind when you think of the shadow. But a child of the shadow is someone who, growing up from their experiences, has continuously experienced the stigmatization of others due to the projection of the shadow of people. So in the first video that I ever made, which you can watch here, this is the first video I ever made. It's been 1 year since I've done this channel. I break down societally all the ways people can resonate with the archetype of the child of the shadow, what it means, how you can connect with it, and how you can truly become the best version of yourself by truly accepting who you are and ignoring and not allowing the projections of people's shadow to affect your life. But now, the first video was more about being scapegoated. Now we're going to talk about being misunderstood. So I hope that this video is helpful, and thank you for watching. Throughout the entirety of your childhood and your life, you're gonna have to settle, if you're a child of the shadow, with feeling like you're misunderstood, feeling like people purposefully try to misunderstand you. They don't want to understand your point of view, they don't want to understand your perspective, and they don't want to understand how you move through the world because they've already decided who you are for them. Usually, they'll decide what your identity is, they'll decide what your character is, and then there is a defamation of not only your character, a defamation of not only the way that you choose to present yourself, your ego, even your soul, and it completely rewires the way that you think about yourself. And then you start to internalize all these lies and all these things that aren't necessarily true about yourself. And as adults, the greatest thing that we can do for ourselves to sort of combat this from occurring in the way that does not affect our lives anymore and empowers us is to continue to choose ourselves most of all and rewrite the narratives of what these projectors have said about our lives, said about who we're supposed to be, said about why we do the things we do. Only you can sort of craft what the motive or what is the, I think motive is the best word as to why you do what you do. And when people sort of internalize this thing, that's how stigmatization starts, that's how stereotypes start. You often then start to then become that thing. You embody that thing. And you wonder, where did this start from? Where did it come from? It's because you were labeled. You were scapegoated, which you can watch in the first video. And you were labeled something that not necessarily was not who you are, but most specifically did not resonate with you at all. And this is what this video is going to break down. From childhood, I'm sure people refuse to sort of understand your perspective, see where you're coming from, and they always sort of describe what your intentions are. So, for example, a child of the shadow, for example, my experience could have ADHD, and then all these labels sort of sit with you that don't resonate with you specifically. Lazy, stupid, R word, all sort of words that don't necessarily describe the intentions as to what you're doing. It's not to say that, we can't take accountability and we can't take accountability and we can't, you know, accept the consequences of life and the consequences of how our unresolved trauma affects the people around us. But no, we sit with those words and we internalize them and we constantly live with the fact that I'm not this thing. And there is no solution to then becoming the opposite of that thing or becoming who you are and dealing with the things that may not necessarily affect others, may affect you, may affect the world, and dealing with it in a way where you can cohabit, co-regulate, and interact with people and yourself in a way that is safe for you. You may have found yourself to be the topic of blame, because when you're the scapegoat, you're the first person anyone comes to blame. And what I found in my own experience is when going about life, you're going about work, all these kind of things, you see the way people sort of interact with normal things that are mistakes. something slipping on the floor, something doing whatever. And then I see the way that they're like, oh, I forgot my ID, I forgot my this before going to work or before going to school. And the way they sort of are calm with themselves and they don't feel unsafe within their body and feel like they're going to be demonized and feel like people are going to overreact to who they are it completely changed the way that I interacted with myself. And I said, how best can I emulate this? In life, when we're going through the process of healing, when we're going through the process of becoming the best versions of ourselves, we have to sit down, look, and interact with ourselves and be like, what would, who would I have been if this had not happened, and how can I become the healthiest version of myself? And emulating the way that people who have not necessarily had the burden of existing the way that we have is the most important aspect of healing. So when people do make mistakes, look at how they respond. Do they say awful things about themselves? Do they reprimand themselves in a way that is not productive? Do they punish themselves instead of giving themselves accurate consequences to what you know, to what the accountability that they should get for that thing is, or whether they even need accountability for putting something like breaking a plate on the floor or something? What is it? What is the accurate way I can show up for myself, show up for others, and show up for the people around me in a way that is safe, responsible, and most of all, in tune with who you truly are? Never internalize blame as something that you should be, you know, unless it is warranted, that you should be stigmatized for, or you should be banished for. It should be something where you sit down, you internalize, and then you reflect. Reflection is the utmost important aspect of our human condition, in the sense where when we reflect upon things, it's the only way we can grow, evolve, and change and become the best version of ourselves. Sit down, evolve with what does that mean? What does it mean for you to understand what this blame is? Sometimes what the blame can carry is guilt. You feel guilt for existing, you feel guilt for living in the brain or the body or living as you are, and carrying that into adulthood creates all kind of issues with self-esteem. I made a video on self-esteem. Creates all kind of issues with self-worth, value, and we attract the kind of things and people into our lives. Attract is such a gross word because it's very victim thing, but it's the only one I can think of. And it becomes something where we're not able to repel the things in our lives that can cause harm, that can cause all sort of issues as we go into adulthood. So there are a couple of things that could have occurred during childhood. People refusing to see your perspective, people not wanting to understand your intentions and painting you as a problem rather than questioning their own projections. And I think that the most important way of sort of combating that when you become an adult is really looking and internalizing is not to take the blame of other people's projections, not to internalize the way that they feel about themselves. Really have a distinguishing factor as to what is something that I'm supposed to feel or something that is just how this person feels about themselves. One thing that that when I'm interacting with people, and I always tell them, is sometimes you show up more of yourself than you think. The subconscious brain, I was talking to my partner about how um, you have subconscious awareness and then you have your conscious awareness. And then your subconscious awareness sort of shows up in a way that you don't even know. People around you can't see, but you can't see. People will tell you these things about yourself, and that's what happens when these people are projecting. So, when people are projecting, their subconscious awareness shows up, and that's what happens where they don't even, for example, everyone around them knows they're insecure, but they don't know their accountability. Continue to not take accountability. So much things about themselves they don't know because they refuse to reflect. And one of the greatest aspects of healing yourself in a way that is safe for others and you is really intermerging the awareness of your subconscious and your conscious awareness, because the more aware you are of yourself really comes from a place of reflection. And reflecting about yourself is the greatest way you can sort of heal the wounds that are hidden and you don't know anything about. Heal that shadow that you have sort of inherited and is infected from other people's projections onto you. So ask yourself, what does it truly mean when this person is saying this? Does it have anything to do with me? And for me, it's why the opinion of other people has sort of shifted in a way to me where it holds no importance. Is because I really understood what is about me and what isn't about me. what does that really have to do with me? What does it have to say about my life? And usually it shows up in a way that is very telling. It's a mirror to that person or not you. And when you refuse to internalize it, you refuse to let it take space in your mind, your body, your soul, and how you choose to live your life, it becomes something that is completely transformative in how you go on to relieve yourself of this burden of growing up as a child of the shadow, and you become an adult that can live a full and safe and completely well adjusted life. The one thing we sort of have to attack is how we're socialized. We're socialized in different ways, but depending on our backgrounds. It could be our ethnicity, our race, our gender, our sex, our sexuality, all kinds of things. Sexuality is very interesting, but people don't understand how much of it is socially constructed because when what think of a gay person, think of a lesbian, and then that's in your mind. So so much social constructs, so they socialize us and tell us how to show up in a specific way, who to be, where we're, whatever. And these expectations show us how to show up in the acceptable way. For me, I spent the most of my life being people pleaser. How do I show up in a way that is what's the word, that is very God, I can't think of the word, that is perfect for people, if that makes sense. And I know that's not the word, but you can type in the comment section when you think of the word. How can I show up in a way that is that people can sort of, it is malleable for people's sort of happiness? And it's a thing, I don't know why my vocabulary is kind of explain how tight this corset is. But I think it's a thing of like you have to grow up and then really deconstruct what does that mean. For me, I realized for every person in my life at the time, before then and now, I wasn't truly being myself. I was being aspects of myself, of course, but I would always walk into a room and think, how can I be what this person needs? How can I show up in a way that is presentable or that is perfect for this person to like me? And when you're so obsessed or you're so like infatuated with being liked rather than being seen, it becomes something where you betray yourself at every moment. You betray your character, you betray your interests, you betray your morals, and then you stand for nothing, and then you don't know who you are. Who are you? And the thing is, if everyone likes you, that's where it becomes an issue. Everyone shouldn't like you. And it could even be for the most stupid reasons, but if you show up as yourself and you're dedicated your life to being seen rather than being loved, it becomes something where you are surrounded by authenticity and you really get to have spaces where you're free to be yourself. And the thing is, it will happen, you will show yourself and people will reject you. But the thing about rejection is one thing that helps you deconstruct what rejection does to you and in your body is a lot of the times rejection comes from an entitlement to being liked or seen by this person. But the moment you let go of feeling like I'm not entitled to being liked, I'm not entitled to being loved by this person, it will change the way you sort of see interacting with people, and then you understand this person is not for me, this opportunity is not for me, and then you can move on with your life. You have to also prepare yourself to be the villain because you're when you come into this what's it called, people have been so comfortable and happy with your lack of boundaries. I made a bunch of videos on that that you can watch. I'll put them there. They are comfortable, they're happy. They are very, very happy that you don't have boundaries, and now that you have them, it becomes something where you actually have to, you know, you actually have to have relationships where you will become the villain and you will become the is protagonist or antagonist the word, I'm not sure, the what's it called of their story. And you have to live with that, and the moment you get comfortable with that and being, because the truth is, when you meet well-adjusted healthy people, I don't think it's a situation of them not even caring. I don't care what people think because I don't generally care what people think, but I do care to a certain amount. But I never let what people think stop me from doing what I want to do. So even when I'm concerned with what people think and concerned about their opinion, I don't let it stop me from doing what I want to do. So if I'm the villain in their story, that's fine. If they're not happy with what I'm doing, that's also fine. But at the end of the day, you can't let anyone stop you from living your life wholly and authentically. So being demonized will become the inevitable. I noticed when that happened, when certain people that would benefit from my boundaries, I suddenly became the stubborn one. I became difficult. I became someone that interacting with them became and this is why when you see people being stigmatized, for example, especially women in certain industries, that sometimes that's what happens when they're difficult. It means they're not easily malleable. And when you actually step into that space where you are stigmatized and all those kind of stuff, maybe it's the first time it's happening for you, you actually start to understand the people who have been stigmatized and not judge people. I watched by Katya and Trixie, and Courtney Act was on one of the episodes. I think I referenced this a lot. She's like, the less harsh you are and judgmental of yourself, the of other people, I mean, the less you will be of yourself. And that's what happens when you start to see that certain people are being stigmatized, and then want to see, you would always be quick to understand and be quick to judge. So it completely changes the way you interact with people. It's such a evolution and a metabolic, is that the word, a metabolic way of going around the world, because you see the world in a completely different way, and there's a freedom that you have that no one can take from you, that people will envy. People will wonder, why can't I be like that, why can't I be like that? But you then walk into the world in a way that most people have never even gotten the opportunity to walk in, a freedom that most of our generations or people in our family have never gotten the opportunity to do, and then you own it, and then you become the best version of yourself. When we're being socialized, we have roles. What your role is, your role could have been to be the doormat, could have been to be the ugly one, the fat one, the queer one, the whatever, and you, or the defective one, and then you sort of get the power to be like, that's not the that's not the narrative I choose to go under. You stop taking names, for example. Like, one thing that you may not even notice is when you, if you're a child of the shadow of your group or friends or whatever, is if they start calling you names at your expense. Maybe they make fun of your skin, or they make fun of your hair, or they make fun of your weight, and then you realize you don't have to speak to me anymore. And then it doesn't even hold, what's it called, over you, because the narrative and the perspective, you realize that's their opinion, and it doesn't hold any power over me because I'm not allowing it to dictate how I live my life. Because when we internalize those labels, we say, okay, I'm bigger, I can't do this. I'm darker, I can't do this. I'm queer, I can't do this. I'm a woman, I can't do this. I'm a man, I can't do this. I'm a wolf, whatever. And then you become completely shackled by the opinions of other people. And once you free yourself from that, it will become a different experience entirely. You'll be able to live your life in a way that those people will envy, and you will trust to see them for who they truly are. They will actually like the it may not have been obvious to you before, but the behaviors and jealousy and envy and projections will start to become more obvious and become more forceful, and then you can see it for what it is and walk away from them much easier. So there are a couple of things that are going to happen. Character defamation is going to be inevitable once you step into being settled with being misunderstood. Your character is going to constantly be questioned, twisted, and rewritten by others. There's going to be rumors that come about you, and it's because they've lost control over you. They don't know how to control you anymore, and they are panicking. And once that panic starts, you'll start to see a side to them that you've always known, but you've always known they're capable of, but you've never seen. People will not respond to how you actually are. They'll respond to their reflection in you. They'll respond to their shadow traits projected onto you. And you'll see it much clearer. You notice, for example, maybe it's your family in a way that you've interacted with them, or the friends you grew up with, and then you interact with these people. And then you say, oh, yeah, like, for example, say the thing about yourself you don't like. For example, I have a learning disability, so I was always portrayed as stupid or dumb. Oh, I'm this dumb. And they'd be like, actually, no, you're the smartest person I've ever interacted with. And it would be tons of people going, that you realize, wow, I'm not this thing. It may even show up around them, and then you notice when you go around them, maybe you run out of ideas, maybe they intimidate you in a way that you're not intelligent enough, but you realize it's only in this space, it's only in this person or whatever thing I interact with where I show up this way, and then you understand I don't have to deal with this, and then you can easily walk away from them. Because the thing, when people judge online when it comes to trauma, it always pisses me off because they're not informed on what trauma is like. Most of why how people show up in behaviors that exhibit trauma or show a lack of self-esteem or self-worth is they haven't been exposed to any other thing before. That's all they know. These are the only people they know. And Sometimes that's not the case, but it's a thing in this channel. It's a judgment-free zone. People trauma just happens, and people show up in a way that is not necessarily reflective of them, but what they've been through. But my point is, it'll become something where you start to experience things and understand that experiences heal you. Then you live your life and you do things that you're supposed to do. For example, I'm someone who've had a bunch of negative, you know, romantic experiences up until the partner I've met, and my partner has healed me. I would not have been able to do so if I'd not met my partner. So it's very important for people to, you have these experiences, this is your normal, and you realize this isn't normal. And when you realize this isn't normal, it's gonna be completely heartbreaking because you're like, wow, I've had to go through this. This isn't fair. And you understand that you don't have to go through this anymore. You don't have to deal with this. And you find a way to empower yourself. One thing people don't, I probably discussed these before, but I'm going to discuss more in detail, is you becoming something you're not in order to survive. And you become someone maybe who's not interested in other things. You become someone with a whole other identity, a whole bunch of interests just to survive your surroundings. And when you step into who you truly are, you will resent those years before where you had to be someone else, where you had to be someone that didn't resonate with, even maybe sometimes morally, you didn't resonate with, character wise, you don't even like. And there's so much things that can happen. Sometimes you can become the person you want to be, and then aspects of that person shows up. You become something you're not, and it becomes something where you sort of have to step into survival mode, and then you realize that like you can't be this person anymore. You can't be that person anymore, and you have to do the work to not associate yourself with that person anymore, and realize that the people from where you know will associate you with that person. Maybe they associate with people pleasing, they associate with that person. You have to remind them that you're not that person anymore. And it's something that's very difficult when people's narratives and perspectives have defined you your entire life and told you this is who you are, this is what you are. But when you're an adult, like you, especially when you have so much years ahead of you, which most of us do and most of us don't because you don't know when you're going to die anyways, you can shift the narrative and shift the perspectives around who you are and become someone completely, completely designed by yourself. And you can design that narrative and create a narrative that best uplifts who you are. Like see it as you can literally become and be anyone you want to be. You can do anything you want to do. And the job on this channel is that with that person that you're becoming, you choose the healthiest and safest and most uplifting, if that's the word, version of yourself to become. What people may have done if you're a child of the shadow is expecting the worst from you before you even act. And you know what, this sort of thing even happens systemically. One thing people don't know is places, for example, statistically, that are over policed usually have more places of crime, usually have more like numbers of crime. And this is because, when you sort of define people and tell them this is who they are and tell them this is how they're going to be, especially when you don't provide the kind of resources they have to grow and you isolate them, they have most of the time, especially as their children, no other choice but to embody that thing that occurs. And that's why you see certain, when there's income inequality, like crime and all these sort of things can be eradicated. No, not can be associated with those things. And it's important for people to understand that you have what you're given in life, and you can decide whether or not you, especially as you're growing up and you're presented with more opportunities. If that's the case, you can decide whether or not you want to embody that thing and become something completely different at any point in life. I don't care how old you are, I don't care how young you are, you can decide to become someone else. You can decide to be someone that does completely different, and it can be down to things like I've seen for people. Maybe you're growing up and like you come from a family in STEM and you love drawing or music or art. You could decide to pursue that and do that at any time. I think people underestimate. Obviously, we live in a society that sort of cages us with capitalistic pursuits, but you can decide at any point in life to become someone else and shift the trajectory of how your life is going to be. You can decide that at any point, and that's the power of empowering yourself to become someone new and someone that is completely different from who you were before. It feels sometimes like you're being jinxed, like you carry a story about yourself that was never yours to begin with, and then that's how certain cycles of trauma begin. For example, for some people, maybe you go about the world and people just decide, oh, they could decide you're slutty or they could decide you're dirty. And then you sort of carry that thing with you your entire life. And I think it's why it's important to sort of, when you speak to children more specifically, like be very careful what you say because the minds of children are being molded by things they watch, by things they see. And young children, especially young children of color, young queer children, young girls, deserve to know that they can be and become anything that they want to be. And they shouldn't be tied to um, the shackles of this is where you come from, so you can't be this. This is the family you're from, so you can't do this. Most of the times, when people project the shadow onto you, their expectations of how their life is gonna be or how they see their life, they project onto you. They think they can't do this, so they tell you you can't do this. They think they'll never be this, so they tell you you can't do this. They think that they are this, and they tell you are this, and just completely decide sort of trajectory your life is gonna be, and it follows you around your entire life. I think I made a video about that, about trauma following you, like stalking you, and it stalks you, and you carry someone else's expectations and burdens, and that's what we call generational trauma. And so the way to combat that is to take a very forceful approach about ejecting it from your life and completely understand that it has no place in your life moving forward when you decide that is the case, and you can at any time remove it from your life. So these are the sort of emotional tolls that being misunderstood does. It can give you a deep frustration about yourself and the world, chronic pain, suppressed angers, and these emotions don't disappear. As I said before, they follow you around and they stalk you and they jinx you for the entire trajectory of your life, and then you wonder why you respond a certain way and why certain things trigger you. As someone who has CPTSD, it could also cause CPTSD. And unfortunately, those things are going to show up no matter how healthy you get. I think I'm in the most healthy sort of romantic relationship I've been in my entire life. And it does show up. Those abandonment issues show up. The lack of self-worth shows up. The lack of self-esteem shows up. The codependency shows up. And then you feel like you're lost and you feel like you can't head anywhere that you want to go to. And you just feel like you're back where you started. And the important part of empowering yourself and becoming someone new and allowing yourself to become the best version of yourself is to give yourself patience and be patient with yourself on the journey of healing the things you've gone through, and also just doing. Not everything is staying in your room and just healing and whatever, like just doing and living your life regardless of it. If you, for example, maybe if you're fresh out of a breakup, I wouldn't recommend you go into a relationship. But if that's something you really want, and you know it's something you really really want and something you feel you're ready for, you're not incapable of it because you feel like because you those things show up, if that makes sense, because they're not going to go anywhere. They're always going to show up, sometimes even when you least expect it. So sometimes you can allow those things can allow you to decide what you deserve. You deserve love even though you have a propensity for anger issues. You deserve love even though you are codependent or have a propensity to be codependent. You deserve love if you're even if you're anxious. You deserve love even if you're a homebody. So you deserve love even though you have things that you need to work on yourself. Let's remove love. Let's decenter love for a moment. You deserve opportunities. You deserve friendship. You deserve memories that are worth looking for, and you deserve experiences in general, regardless of where you're at. So live your life, do the things that you want to do, become the person that you want to be, and understand that these emotions that are holding you or holding you back or making you feel a certain type of way about yourself, whether it's negative or positive or neutral, don't have to hold you or suppress you for the rest of your life. They can continue to become something that you know are a trigger, sorry, a trigger for reflecting upon the parts of yourself that you like and continuing to embody those things, reflecting upon the part of yourself that you don't like and rejecting those things or accepting those things and then evolving, and allow reflection to become something that is ongoing and not something that you use a cane that you beat yourself with. What happens most of all if you don't address this is they can reinforce those false identities placed on you. And this is what sometimes shows up when someone is, you know, maybe they were sober and they have an addiction to something, whether it's an addiction to drugs, addiction to sex, masturbation, whatever, and you then will reinforce that idea. Maybe you're the junkie, maybe you're the slut, maybe you're the whatever. I don't want to just be using those words, or you're the fatty, or whatever word they used against you, sort of whatever. And then you go back to that place, but then it's very hard and it's a very, very, very um, difficult process into shifting the narrative of what people have placed upon you and told you that you are. And you have to get into the place of defining who you are for yourself and understanding that even though those things show up doesn't mean that you're that thing. You've lived a complicated life and complicated things happen. And life will never become not complicated. I think that's the best way to describe life. Some people don't know how to describe life. The way I would describe life is it's complicated. It's not simple. It's not black and white and it's not gray. So just because you're triggered and you slip up and you break your promise to yourself doesn't mean that you're that person. You have to think of all the progress and all the things that you've overcome. All those things matter. All the things you have accomplished and all the things that you've been able to do and all the memories you've been able to make, they still matter. Just because there's been a slip up or just because bad things have happened doesn't mean that all those things have to go away in an instant. You're an adult now. No one is going to take all these amazing, wonderful things that you built yourself for yourself away from you. No one is going to, um, like, no one's going to punish you or scold you, at least in the way that you were when you were a child. Like, you're free from certain aspects of yourself. Like, it's allow yourself to become free in living your life the way that you want to and being an adult for real, not being an adult in like simulated way. Sometimes in your 20s when you live with your parents and then you have like a bedtime by 8 p.m. or you can't leave out. No, like really, like when it comes to executive decisions about your life that can affect you moving forward, like take charge and be like, this is what I'm the decision I'm gonna make in my life. And regardless of however anyone perceives it, you've gotta just make that decision. Because when it comes to certain decisions, especially with the socialization I meant to, where they say marry someone you don't want to, do a career you don't want to, spend hours or spend decades or spend years of your life you don't want to do in something you don't want to do or whatever, you say no because you will always regret it and you will always look back and wish that you made a decision that was harder but honored yourself. Because when we look at things that have to do with growth, it's uncomfortable. Don't expect to grow and live the life that you want to and be comfortable at first. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be inconvenient and it's going to become something that is going to affect you and affect the way that you move through the world. Always understand that. Never doubt yourself. Never live in the spirit sort of self doubt, because self doubt will hold you back in ways that you don't know. Always, the thing is, so much circumstances and people around you, because it's not even people, sometimes circumstances in life will have you doubting yourself. But the point of overcoming all the things you've overcome and becoming the person you are now is to trust yourself. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust yourself. You have to trust your intuition. You have to trust your experiences. You have to trust that life is working for you and not against you. And you have to trust the process of life. That's the best way you can move forward. Because the moment you stop trusting yourself is the moment you start to self sabotage. And when you start to self sabotage, you go back to square one. And it's not to say that life is over, but it's just to say that it's going to become something that you would wish you had not done. Don't doubt yourself. Like, you only have yourself. This is what you're going to take with you when you die, and this is what came with you when you were born. Don't doubt yourself. Trust yourself. Always. Healing is not about proving people wrong. That is what it was like. It was for me for the first physical of my life. I want to prove people wrong. I want to show that I'm not this thing. I want to show that I'm not stupid. I'm not dumb. I'm not all these things that they said I was. I want to prove those things, but that's not what it's about. If your healing is centering other people instead of centering yourself and how you want it moving forward, you're not healing, babe. It can't be about them. It's all about you. It's all about you at the end of the day. So when you reshape who you are and reclaim the what's the called of your true self, you really start to decenter the opinions of other people. And then there's this happiness, especially if you're healing from heartbreak, there's this happiness of being on your own. This is me, this is my life, and I'm on my own, and I'm on this journey of life, and I'm moving forward in a way that is um, very compatible with how I want to be. Not compatible with how anyone says you should live your life. Don't worry about being compatible in that sense, because when the people that are supposed to be in your life come in and show up, they will come in and you'll be so compatible with them, it's scary. You will be so yoked with them, it's scary. Like, how do we get along so much? How do we, what's it called? Because they're supposed to work with you. If it feels like they're working against you and not working with you, and everything just feels like it's not working out, I have something to say. That's the universe's way of saying this person's not for you. Your people are coming, but that's not that person. It should work seamlessly. It's not to say you won't disagree. It's not to say you won't have arguments. It's not to say that things that happen when you interact with human beings won't happen. That's going to happen. But it's to say that you will continue to live your life in a way that that person complements it and they don't define it. So the next step is creating a safe space for yourself. And what is that safe space going to be like? A safe space doesn't necessarily mean your room or your house. It could be in relationships, it could be in your career, it could be in your mind. Your mind, your body, your soul, your relationships, they all have to be a safe space for you. And then you can then decide what you want that to look like, what that means for you. So a safe space starts with you being seen for who you truly are. Hold that in. You being seen for who you truly are and how valuable and important you are. Your own perspective is allowed to exist. When I started to realize I was in friendships that were healthy, I was I was in my friend. Her name is Cece Jacobson. I always reference her, but she was like, you're allowed to disagree with me. I was like, you know what? Right, I don't agree. And I was like, wait, that's great, because sometimes when you make certain friendships with certain people, you feel like you can't disagree with them. You feel like you have to agree with them, but that's something I always did. I feel like I always had to agree. But it becomes something where you can, be like, I disagree. Obviously, if it's not about like politics and etc., but I disagree. You should eat cereal like this and whatever. And when you're so hyper scrutinized, you feel like you can't be yourself. You can't have an opinion. You can't have a perspective. And you allow, and a safe space is what allows that to exist. You're not immediately scapegoated. People actually want to see where you come from when you're in a safe space. They want to see where you come from. They want to see how you view the world. They want to understand you, and that's something that is happening with my relationships now. Whether it's my friendships, my romantic relationships, and my romantic relationship, and my what's it called, and my platonic relationships. So I think it's what's it called? You They want to see where you're coming from. They don't immediately decide who you are. They will want to have a conversation with you and sit down and be like whatever. And you want to do that as well, because what I found is I would immediately do that as well. I'll make assumptions about people because people always make assumptions about me. I will always be like, oh yeah, they did this because of that. I don't know that. You're not in anyone's mind. No matter how observant and intuitive and perceptive you are, it doesn't mean that you know what that person was thinking, you know what that person means. Some behaviors are obvious, and it's very clear that person meant this and this person meant harm towards you. But some, you should sit down, find out what it is instead, because most times your assumptions are just negative patterning from trauma. It's not you being this intuitive mind reader. You can't read minds. There's no technology for that now. I don't know if there will be in the future, but you can't read minds. People's minds are for them. And the only way you can even be able to sort of predict people around you is getting to know them and not making assumptions about them, and not allowing people to make assumptions about you. Another thing what will happen is people won't put you in your place. No one will feel the need to humble you. People will actually start to acknowledge you for how great you are. You start to receive genuine compliments, not someone complimenting you and then making a dig at you at the same time. Someone who actually sees you will compliment you, and then you're like, wow, I really feel like I'm being seen. And it's not they compliment you about your body and then they insult your face. They compliment you about your face, they insult your body. They compliment you about your mind and then they insult your state of your being or whatever. It's full and whole love and full and whole appreciation for you. You really get to feel appreciated, because when people appreciate you, they're gonna let you know. It's just the truth. They're gonna let you know through. their actions, or most specific, they're also gonna let you through their words, because sometimes we feel like, oh, they don't tell me how much, what's it called. That is still a red flag. They should be telling you. Maybe they shouldn't tell you every day, but they should be telling you how much they appreciate you. Or most of all, most importantly, they should be showing it. So no one's gonna put you in your place, and no one is gonna they're not gonna reduce you to the identity, the what's it called of the group. When I was in the when I was talking with my friends specifically, we were all saying how we all feel like the Beyonce of the group. And you know what? We should have never even said that. We just feel like no one's a leader. You just feel like this person has these qualities and makes it whatever. Because the truth is, that is another example of just deciding who this person is in a group, for example, a girl group, and then deciding this, that, based off things you don't know anything about. So it's a thing of like, that's how the friendship will be. You won't feel like there's a leader. You won't feel like there's a whatever, alpha, omega, or whatever. You just feel like you're people. You have these strengths. This person has these strengths, and you appreciate them for all the things that they contribute to your life. Not this person is more this person is more this. It's exhausting. It'll exhaust you, and it's not good for you. And settling with being understood doesn't mean that you then accept horrible treatment. I think that's the thing. You feel like you settled and misunderstood. I'm settled being misunderstood. That means I'm going to allow people to mistreat me. Absolutely not. Do not even allow it. No, don't allow it. It's not going to happen, because you have to then, okay, I'm misunderstood. I've settled with that. I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. This is me, and I'm not going to allow anyone. This, like, think of you've molded this person who you are as clay, and then you're not going to allow them to destroy it. You're going to take care of yourself. You're going to take care of how people define, you're going to take care of the definition of yourself. Look at how people are with religion when they speak about their god or whatever. You're going to respect yourself the way those people respect whatever. You're not going to allow them to be blasphemous about who you are and say certain things about you without getting checked or give into it. You're not. You're gonna be so, and it's funny how we're socialized to give the treatment that we're supposed to give ourselves to the people around us, the things that we look up to, or concepts we look up to, rather than to ourselves. Don't allow anyone to blaspheme the beauty of who you are. You know who you are, and no one can tell you that. No one, especially those who have specifically made a habit of consistently misunderstanding you. That you let go the need of constantly to correct those narratives. You don't need to correct them. You know who you are. You don't need to correct them about anything, because you know who you are. You're strong in who you are, and you don't need anyone to tell you who you are or to define yourself. Sorry, I'm very gassy. Then you continue to ground yourself in who you know yourself to be. You ground yourself in who that person is. You ground yourself to them in all their power and all their intellect and all the things that are positive about them. And the ground is strong, and it cannot be moved by any earthquake or any person or anything that chooses to define it. You're so secure. A secure attachment or secure relationship, attachment is the wrong word, but a secure attachment in the relationship you have with yourself and your identity. It's simple, just like that. And the inner work becomes so easy because you're so in tune with who you truly are. You're living your truth, and you're understanding that your truth is the truth. It's such a condescending way sometimes where people will tell people that's your truth. No, your truth is the truth, because that's the perspective and that's the narrative you live under. That's the only. You wake up every day in your body. You wake up every day with your experience, your memories, and your brain. So your truth is the truth by default. And of course, the truth can be questioned, the truth can change, the truth can evolve, but only you then get to decide that. And no performing. You stop performing, and then you become who you truly are. You don't become another person. You don't allow those who are committed to misunderstanding you take space in your life, or where their opinions matter. Because for me, I don't think it's a thing where I don't care what people think. It's like, if I'm presenting myself like this on my channel, of course I care what people think. Of course I care if people like my whatever. But I'm not going to allow it to define me in any way moving forward. And allow it to become something where, oh, I let those things or let those narratives take space in my brain. No, I won't. This isn't a one time realization. it's an ongoing process. That's why I think I'm gonna make a bunch of Are You a Child of the Shadows? I make part two of previous videos I made because it's ongoing. I thought that would be the last one I do of this, but it's not gonna be. And it's ongoing. You're going to go through this again and go through it in different fonts because life is complicated, life is nuanced, and life is not black and white. And with your lived experience, only you can sort of understand where you're truly coming from, and only you can sort of decide the trajectory and where your life is going to go. Of course, life can do it for you, but then you cannot, you can decide you work with life and understand life isn't working against you. So, I wanted to say I'm so thankful for this video. I'm gonna put like a clip of me last year and this year. So much stuff has happened. I have a job now, and it's why I'm gonna be making much less videos than I used to, unfortunately. And but these ones will be longer. There will be more details, and it's definitely something to look forward to. I'm very excited to start making them. I've changed. When you have a certain job, because I work in a warehouse, it takes like so much from you. Like it takes so much like what's the word? Energy and all this stuff from you, and it was very hard to film. I think I've said before I was doing shorts for a while, but I didn't feel very inspired. So I'm very excited to see what the future becomes. For those where this is the first time you're seeing me, um, this is my 50th video, and this is my anniversary of my 1 year of this channel. Um, Go watch my playlist where you can see more of my videos and see more of what I have to offer and all the things that I had done in 2025. Um, I think you really, really use them because I think I created a really good foundation of what this channel truly is, what it means to me, and what it can mean for other people. So it's really important where you go and watch those videos because most of the stuff I'm going to be making from now on is part two of those stuff, so go watch them. Um, and I want to thank anyone who supported me this far, and um, your comments and your likes and your engagement has not gone unnoticed. Thank you so much for watching. You can subscribe to my Patreon if you're interested. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe. It's your medicine woman, Ashley Lovely Day, telling you to have a lovely day. Make sure you have a lovely day and understand that you're important, you're valuable, and it can only go up from here. I love you all so much.
The Medicine Woman.